Well, I made a big mistake this morning.
You did.
I made a massive mistake, and I've let a lot of people down. I've disappointed a lot of people.
Dude, do you know how many people tweeted at me and said, looking forward to seeing the go-kart viz?
I know. So I got in my truck this morning because my routine is the same all the time. Frankie Corrado's in here for the record. Hi, Frankie.
What's up, boys?
Good to see you, Frank.
Good to see you.
And you're aware that we were talking about, which is a real car, by the way.
Yeah, he thought it was an actual go-kart.
Right.
Golf cart.
Legitimately came in and said, where's the golf cart? I don't see it in the park.
How would I possibly get a golf cart?
From Whitby to Scarborough.
I don't know, man. Like, maybe you got a buddy with a truck who was going to bring it here for you.
I guess it's possible. You get it up on the deck, and then maybe you can drive it. I don't know. But I'm not driving a golf cart down the 401, although I have seen crazier things. I'll bet you someone at some point in the history of the 401 has driven a golf cart on that highway.
I know guys that have driven a golf cart. They stole it from the Westin Hotel and drove it just south of the 401 right up Yonge Street. How they got away with that, I have no idea. Sidewalk all the way up Yonge to the 401 on a golf cart.
That's a long trek, too.
Dude,
man.
no kidding. How do you not pass one cop?
Yeah, or someone that just looks at you and goes, what the hell is happening here? This can't be normal. Like, this is not normal behavior. So anyway, I left my house early this morning, grabbed my keys the way I always do. I got in the truck, and then I got to where I was going, and I'm like, I forgot the golf cart. So I owe people. I will bring it in. It will come in, and it will be driven around here. It will be driven around here because it is a thing of beauty, but it's a legitimate automobile.
It is. We'll take it to the back parking lot and we'll do some driving tests.
Yes, we will. I'll bring a helmet in for you.
Yes.
You can be Super Dave.
Can I ask you one question about it? Is it red? Like, it would be
black.
perfect
Black,
if it was
man.
red.
It's stealth, dude.
Stealth.
This thing there's sparks coming off these wheels. There was a time where I was cruising around downtown Toronto with that. I'll bet you people are like, I wonder who's in that car. I wonder if that's someone that I want to know. I'll bet you it happened at some point, but so I owe everyone an apology because I had a lot of people tweeting me all day, people sending me DMs on Instagram, being like, I'm waiting. You're going live. You said you'd be going live. Super Dave's going to drive around in that thing.
Super Dave.
Yeah. I need a full body suit on you and a helmet.
Hey,
Goggles,
find it
too.
and I'll wear it. Find it and I'll wear it.
All right, Doogie, you have one job. One job. You have to find me because it's Halloween. This would be a great Halloween costume.
There we go.
You go to a Halloween party. Now you got to be of a certain age. Doogie, I guarantee you, has no idea.
Never heard of Super Dave Osborne.
Doogie, jump on the mic for a moment because we're going to do this. This is a Doogie diagnosis. We have Doogie helping us. Basically, he's running the whole show.
I know
Frankie.
him, man. Yeah, he's been here like 3 weeks. He was an intern like 4 days ago.
That's right. Yeah, when you saw him today, you go, "How was school this morning?" Frankie asking how school was. Doogie left school. I wrote him a note. He got out of school and he came in. He's producing the show. Doogie, be honest with us. Do you have any idea who Super Dave Osborne is?
Boys, if you want me to be honest, I don't.
Yes, I knew it.
I have
Doogie
no
has
idea.
no
Man.
idea, man.
Got back from recess, no idea who that is.
That's really, really
You've never
disappointing.
seen like an old clip on TV or like some type of viz of Super Dave Osborne. He's like a legendary comedian that did all these like
It was shot in
jumping
Toronto,
off.
too.
Yeah, he was shot in this building, I think.
Yes, remember down the DVP, he was always, I think the Bloor Bridge, like he used to do stuff down there.
Yeah, he jumped off the Sky Dome a bunch of times.
That's right. Who was his buddy? The guy who ran the show. What was his name? Oh man, look it up, Doogie, because he had like a partner in crime.
He was just a little guy, right? Like with gray hair or something.
Yeah, what was his name? Like, who was his sidekick? Let me. Mr. Fuji, I believe was his name.
That guy you told. How do you say that?
Yeah, Super Dave is often accompanied on his various exploits by a loyal friend, sidekick, and assistant stunt coordinator, Fuji. Fuji Hakayito.
Hakayito.
Fuji Hakayito. Yes. So you will be Super Dave. I will be Fuji. And we will do this.
Let's go.
I make that promise. I make that promise. And I will have a statement in about an hour. Luke Wilson will be in here. It is statement day today, right? Team Owen Wilson, you guys are on the clock for the Thursday nighter tonight. Bills at home against Tampa. Must win. Absolute must win for the Bills. We were breaking down their schedule yesterday. at the Eagles, at the Bengals, at the Dolphins, at Kansas City. You have to beat Tampa Bay tonight.
Non-negotiable.
Absolute must-win for the Bills tonight. So you guys will be on that game. You'll be making that pick, and Luke will be in here again in about an hour. The Leafs are in action tonight. Joseph Woll is in that. You understand that we need to pronounce his name properly.
I'm not doing it. I can't go on TV in an intermission or something and say, in my head, it's got to be Wool or what?
I think it's Woll, like stole. It's Woll, just Joseph Woll. But Wall is perfect for a goaltender. This guy was playing left wing. I'd say, fine, I can accept the name change.
Dude, I'm not kidding you.
You're a
Why not
goalie.
for PR purposes? His agent should say, don't even think about changing it from Wall.
Exactly. It's like
Keep it Wall.
It's like Joe Theismann. It's not Theismann, but it rhymed with Heisman. So they're like, your name is Theismann now. It was Thiesman. I think his real name is Joe Thiesman.
That's a social media coordinator's dream right there.
Right.
All the puns you can do when this guy posts a shutout or has a great game.
It has to be Wall.
Yeah.
Mr. Fuji would make that call.
Yes.
If
he
Fuji was running the show, he'd say, I don't care what you think you're pronouncing your name as. It is Joseph Wall from here on out. But Wall is in net. What I find interesting is Scott Wedgwood is playing for the Stars. They don't play again until Monday at home.
Right.
So they play tonight. They're off all weekend, and then they play Monday at home in Dallas. Why would
That's
Ottinger not be playing?
That's some scientist that said, you know what, we're giving Ottinger that full break, and then he's going to come back fresh, and he's going to play a bunch. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's
No,
load
I
management.
actually talked to Peter DeBoer yesterday. Had a nice conversation with him. Had a little chat. He called me. Apparently,
Did you?
No, I'm just kidding.
He was supposed to be on with us, but
I
we
know
had a
he's supposed to be
miscommunication. We had a
But
miscommunication.
I think they were saying that Ottinger's just been playing so much, so they're just going to give
It's
him.
the second week of the year.
I know he's already playing too much.
Like, I'll give you that in February or March.
Yeah.
You know, you're starting to
Dude,
look ahead
back
to the
in the day,
playoffs.
man, starters were like it would be nothing for a starter to play back-to-backs, like both.
Oh, yeah.
Like Marty Brodeur, it was like Chris Terreri and guys that would, like they were playing 4 games a year.
Dude, Scotty Clemenson might have, like the most he ever got was maybe 11 playing behind Brodeur.
Oh, yeah. Those guys
wild.
would start 70 games and they wouldn't.
Yeah.
But again, a situation like this is not even about overextending anything. It's Dallas is barely played. They play tonight at home and then again Monday at home. And Ottinger's not going. So if you're the Leafs, I don't think it's a slight on the Leafs. I think this was a pre-planned sports science. We're going to commit to it. It's effectively load management arriving in the NHL with the goaltending position. But you have Joseph Wall in net for the Leafs, which is a massive opportunity for him.
I wonder if it bugs
Massive.
guys, though. Like, if you're on Dallas, you're thinking, we want to put some in the bank here. Why are we risking it not putting our heater goalie in
Right.
5 days off?
Especially with this team in town. Like, the Leafs are not some schlub.
No.
Like, Matthews is going to come out cooking tonight. I expect Willie to come out cooking tonight. The Leafs, it's a big opportunity. You talked about it yesterday. You want to wrap up a good road trip. You win tonight. You're feeling good.
Take your chances in Nashville.
Absolutely.
This is the grind part of that road trip, hey? Like you start in Florida, you go back up to DC, now you're heading down south. Like,
But if you win
change-
tonight, it's wrapped up and it's all positive.
Oh,
you
could-
can go yuck it up in Nashville and go out the night before the game
Yeah.
and just see what happens, because you win tonight against probably the best team on the road trip.
Yes, this is the best game.
That wraps up the road trip and everybody's going home in a good mood no matter what.
Yeah.
So you can do yourselves, the players, coaches, everybody that gets on that airplane, everyone a favor by winning tonight.
And I know the plan was for them to start Samsonov. I kind of like adjusting the plan here and going with the hot hand.
Thank
as
you
far as
very
the
much.
goaltender.
Thank you very
Like,
much.
Let the guy have a little runway here. Give him the ball. Let him roll with it. You don't have to go back to Samsonov just because you made a plan, an arbitrary plan in your head saying this is Samsonov's scheduled start.
That would be
Give him a little
stupid
more
to do
time.
that. Give
You know?
this guy some love.
Yeah, give him
No.
a little more time and let Joseph Wall have the net.
This is a massive opportunity for him tonight. Like, I really don't think you can undersell how big of a career night this can be for him, because they are deviating from the plan. I think before the season, if they looked at the schedule, they'd probably say, Dallas, that's going to be a tough game. This Dallas team defends well. They're 4-0-1 to start the season. They're a veteran team. This is Samsonov's game. This is the guy we're going to trust to go in there and give us some big stops. And they've deviated from that plan for 2 different reasons. One, Samsonov has not carried the weight. He hasn't played well enough. But Joseph Wall has played very well, and Wall deserves to go in tonight. If you double down on what you just went through, triple down, I would argue, because he played really well in Tampa in relief, played really well the other night. You play well again tonight. Like you talk about like first impressions and getting, coaches do this all the time with minutes played, right? We saw it last night with the Raptors, right? Darko was talking a big game. We're going to play everybody. Basically an 8-man rotation last night. Why? Because he doesn't trust Grady Dick. He played Malachi Flynn 10 minutes and said, I can't play you. You're out. So eventually it gets to a point of who do I like? Who do I trust? Who do I have visions of positivity? Where if Wall plays really well tonight, like you start planting seeds in the head of Sheldon Keefe that you're a guy you can really rely on. Like it's a massive, massive game, I think, for him. Where if he does it again and they win and he plays well, all of a sudden, if it gets into another situation like this a week or two from now, he's going to be the guy going to the net.
And the other thing about it is, Hazy and Frankie, as a D, well, both you guys were D-man. Look at the Edmonton Oilers right now. Their goaltending is not buying them time to figure out their flaws and kind of work things out defensively. Because he's not having that performance where he steals the show and the coaches are like, okay, that wasn't that good, but we got away. It's just a mess right away. So you have solid goaltending back there. It kind of gives everybody time. We're 2 weeks into the season to find your game defensively where there's going to be some bumps along the way. If your goaltending's brutal, man, you've got a tire fire on your hands, and that's all you got. You can't work through anything.
Well, it's like a 2-week span, like you talk about. It's also within a 60-minute game. Think about sometimes like you just need a goalie to make a save for you. You get your legs under you a little bit, and now you have an opportunity to win the game. Like you can look at it as a long-term thing. It's also within the game. Like Samsonov too many times this year, it's like, okay, I know it went in. It wasn't exactly your fault, but we could have used a save there. And I feel like Joseph Wall has had the moments where it's like, yeah, made the save for you guys, no problem. Now go ahead, get us one on the power play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a big opportunity for Wall, for the Leafs. Tonight, a bunch of games in the NHL and a lot of news in the NHL today. This Shane Pinto story, if you're not familiar with it, came out of nowhere because Pinto has been at the forefront of news because he hasn't been signed, because the Senators' cap situation has been a mess. So he's been sitting at home. Basically, this might explain why he actually went home a week and a half ago.
Right.
I'm starting to kind of wonder what's going on here because remember he flew up, he was training with them, then he went back to the States.
And it was like too many distractions. And
yeah,
all.
It was
Gotta
like,
go home.
I got to go home. And you're like, really? That's kind of strange. But Pinto has not been signed to a deal. He still has not been signed to a deal, but he was suspended for 41 games, which will be retroactive to day one of this season. So he's already banked, I guess, 6 games, I believe it is. But 41 games for his involvement in gambling on sports. Now, where this gets sticky, and I'm curious where this is going to go. Pierre LeBrun will join us later this afternoon. Details are slowly starting to come out, but the NHL does not frown upon their athletes betting on other sports. Right? That is not illegal based on the CBA. And they issued a statement saying their investigation concluded he did not personally bet on NHL games. So it just seems like a weird kind of middle ground where, again, it's not a full release of information. He has accepted his punishment. He issued a statement via the team, which is, again, really strange because he isn't even signed, that, he apologizes. He's going to serve a suspension, and he'll be due back in the lineup in January if they end up signing a deal between now and then.
First of all, we're not going to throw Shane Pinto into a black hole and say we're never letting you out because, we like to just trash people and say you're so stupid and you're never coming back. He will get through this, but the level of stupidity involved here is incredible. I thought I saw some stupidity with the Babcock situation. This is every training camp, guys with suits come in the locker room. I don't know if they still did it when you were playing. Talking about gambling, anyone approaching you, anybody asking for information. It's just a non-negotiable thing. You do not do it. Mm-hmm. So although I don't know the specifics, I have a pretty good idea. For him to be involved in any type of garbage like this, whether it be a friend using his account or any kind of stuff like that, is so incredibly stupid. And I've seen it so many times with athletes and steroids, and it always is a buddy, and it's not for me, and I misremembered. I don't believe him anymore. I honestly don't believe him. If he was saying it wasn't me and it was somebody else, I just have a difficult thing. And when it comes down to it, if it was you're just as guilty. It's just you're guilty by association.
It's because your name is on it,
It's right. It's 41 games. If you didn't actually place a bet on hockey games, it's 41 games for stupidity. And his old man and his parents, his family must be so pissed off because I'm not kidding myself. I got myself into some trouble and my dad wanted to strangle me.
Right.
And just the comment came out, how stupid could you be? There's probably $100 million sitting in front of this kid and he's screwing around with one of his buddies. And I don't know. It's 41 games for stupidity. And I hope the kid learns from it because nobody's been a bigger fan of him than me. His on-ice play, I love him. And I think he should be there. He should have been there. I've been begging for it. But this is nonsense, and he's going to pay the price for it.
I think there's two things you have to keep in mind with all this. One, the NHL is laying the hammer down here and saying, even if we think you're involved, if there's any reason for us to think there's some involvement with betting on the NHL, this is the new standard. We're not messing around. We're not going to be doing the whole he said, she said kind of thing. So they're not taking any chances on that. And the other thing, like it's a long road for the kid now, right? Like we're not going to write him off and say he's a bad guy or whatever, degenerate, all that kind of stuff, right? Like one mistake like this doesn't make the kid a bad kid. But you're right, man. Like there's a lot of dollar signs at the end of the road for this guy, and now he's going to miss 41 games. He's not going to sign the contract he was just going to sign, all because of one thing. And listen, he's going to chew on that. Hopefully he comes back on the other side, much better and understanding of what the consequences could be.
Put a lot of eyeballs on himself, too, because when it comes to gambling, and I don't know, it's just, I guess it's something like people that aren't supposed to drink, you're watching them at a party, like, what are they doing? Like, are they going to, like, it's just, you're going to be all eyes on them. It's like, it's just when you get involved in something like that, it's human nature as his teammate to be watching him like a hawk saying, during situations on the ice, it might be an empty netter, it might be taking a penalty. He's got some unnecessary eyeballs on him all because of this. And it's hard for people to move on and forget about it. He'll always be the first guy that got busted in the National Hockey League for this type of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's now you have a reputation that's built in, and it's never going to change. It's never going to leave your Wikipedia page. It's always going to be there. You're suspended for 41 games, and there are certain jobs in which you have to be held to a different standard. And I have heard the arguments from a number of people saying, well, wait a minute, the NHL, they are in bed with gambling companies. They promote gambling. They benefit from the revenue that comes from that, just like the NFL does, the NBA does, MLB, all sports do now around the world. North America was basically the last spot where they were pushing back against it. Now the floodgates are open. And I've always disagreed with that just because everyone else can bet on it, they should be allowed to bet on it. It's very simple. If you're a pro athlete, there is a separation between the athletes and the general public. And the athletes have to be held to a different standard. And the integrity of the sport is paramount. And that's why the NFL laid the hammer down the way that they have in the past. Go talk to Calvin Ridley about that, among many other players who are currently dealing with that in the NFL. And then beyond, the NFL just upgraded their penalties for any association with gambling to be even steeper because you have to uphold the integrity of the sport. You have to make sure that non-gamblers and gamblers...
They're probably creeping towards ban for life.
Yes, and guess what? If it gets to that point, I can understand that ruling because it's very simple. Even if they went across the board, no gambling on anything, that doesn't change the athletes' lives. Fine, you can't gamble. So what? You're in the league for 5 years, 10 years. Afterwards, go do what you want to do. Before you get there, do what you want to do. There needs to be an understanding that the players involved in these sports have no association with any funny business. And if you're the sport itself, that's paramount. I think if you're the gambling companies, that's paramount as well. I've always been a proponent of this. Once it becomes legal, it's easier to regulate. That's how this happened. Pinto got caught because it was regulated. If you're making bets or handing out information in a back alley somewhere, it's never going to get out. It never would have gotten out. It's actually, quote unquote, safer in a cleaner gambling world now because everything is online, because everything can be tracked, everything can be traced. So it is paramount that these leagues lay down the hammer because you cannot have fans, gambling or otherwise, say, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, what does this player know that we don't know? What did this player possibly do that had some sort of effect on the way that the game was actually played? And that's just a reality of being a pro athlete. Does it suck for some pros that maybe want to do different stuff, be in fantasy leagues or whatever? Okay, so be it. You're well compensated. That's the job. Politicians, the same thing.
But dude,
politicians can't just do whatever they want. You're a politician. You chose to get into that business.
You want to play fantasy football? Every team has a fantasy football
right,
league
and they allow that in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
Or in the NHL.
All these guys on Sunday, like I lived it, man. I know boys are placing bets on Sunday for football. Like it's all normal. If you enjoy that kind of stuff, sitting on the couch on a day off Sunday, placing a few bets on the Bills or whatever, you can do that. You can scratch that itch. You just can't do it when it comes to the NHL. And obviously, we don't know the whole story, and I don't know if details are ever going to come out. But you're right. Like, he's always going to be branded as the first NHL player that got caught for, I guess, gambling on the NHL, even though the statement
whatever
is
his
so
association
vague.
was.
The statement is so vague, it's hard to understand. It would be nice to have a little more context.
Right. And I don't know if that's protecting him, if it's protecting business partners. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind that is. But if he was innocent, he'd be fighting this. He'd be fighting it diligently. And, as far as we know, he's not. He's
not going to appeal. It sounds like they
negotiated. Take the 41 games, and that's it. So, yes, this was always going to happen. Again, it's happened in the NFL. It's happened, I believe, in the NBA. And that is the new world we live in, where there's an association with gambling, sports. It's been legalized. There's a lot of revenue there. But you cannot have the players partaking in any capacity. You can't have it, whether in any capacity. And it's very clear the commissioners are picking up on that in all of the leagues. And, for Pinto, he's the first guy to get clipped. I'd be willing to bet kind of an interesting term, that he won't be the last one.
Yeah. He got clipped. I'd be willing to bet.
Did Paulie Walnuts get him behind
I'll
the
take your
bing?
action on someone else possibly getting into this spot. But this is, I guarantee you, throughout all 32 teams right now they're being told this is what's.
Dude, that guy that I talked about with the suit. That guy will be in every locker room.
Get to the players.
Every locker room, every morning skate, every practice.
No association with anything. Don't tell anyone anything. Don't talk about it. Don't get into anything. Don't bet on anything. Don't do it. And if I was an athlete today, or if I had a kid in the league, I'd say don't do anything. Don't have an account, period.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just play and make your millions, and then afterwards do whatever the hell you want. And, if you go to a casino in the off season, or go live your life. But there's no benefit to you doing it, having any association with anything that could lead people to say, I wonder what's going on there.
But you're
it's just not worth
100%
it.
right. Like, guys make a lot of money in the NHL. The money you're going to make if you do sports bet, it's so insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand you want to blow off some steam. You roll into Detroit, you go to MGM, you have a good time, whatever. But, like, doesn't need to be a daily thing where, you're just constantly placing bets and that happens to creep into NHL stuff.
Don't allow the curtain to open at all, where someone from the league or someone wherever can say, I wonder what's going on with that guy. Like, this is kind of sneaky what's happening here. And the thing is, the Ottawa Senators, they didn't lose any games based on this, but it just feels like one more thing that they're
not
dealing
needed,
with
man.
that's
Didn't
not
need
needed. They're 3-3. There's chance going on in the stands. They got a new owner there. They're supposed to be competing for a playoff spot, which they are. It's still early in the season. It's only 6 games. But even if they were going to work out a deal with Pinto, he's not playing. He can't come back until January. Like that.
You know what he's got to do now?
It's just one more thing on their plate that they have to deal with.
You know what he's got to do now? He's got to take that qualifying offer that he didn't want to take, and he's just got to chew on it and say, sorry, you tuck your tail between your legs. You take that qualifying offer. It's like $800-something grand, and just try and work your way up from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of where he's at now. All right, so Leafs in Dallas tonight. You can hear it on TSN Radio, watch it on TSN 4. James Duthie coming in studio. JD will join us. We'll get his take on the Leaf game tonight, the Oilers situation. McDavid, I guess, some reports indicating he skated on his own today. Maybe he's still eyeing the Heritage Classic. It doesn't seem likely.
You can't put him out on the ice in Alberta.
Likely. Doesn't seem likely, but anything's possible. Anything's possible. So we'll catch up with JD, get his take on that. And the Thursday nighter tonight, Bills-Bucks. Bills-Bucks down in Buffalo. We'll tee that up. Luke Wilson will be in studio at 5 o'clock. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Luke Wilson in studio in about a half an hour. Bills-Bucks tonight. Hayes and Company will be making a statement, a long-awaited statement. So that's coming up.
Will there be questions or just the statement and no questions?
Just statement. James Duthie in here. That's the veteran move, right?
I will not be taking questions.
I love those plays. And then while like the president or prime minister are walking up the podium, people are just blurting questions at them and they pretend like they can't hear them.
What does Owen Wilson think? Do they think that's a little self-indulgent of Hazy B over there?
These clowns have given 3 statements in 6 weeks. That's all they do is hand out statements. It's always the same statement.
Ours
too.
are accurate, though.
Mine will be quite accurate. Very detailed and accurate.
I feel like yours will be more like a Trump news conference.
It very well could be. Which some of those
I
are
have
wild.
a losing record, but I have the greatest record of all time.
There's no
People are
strategy.
saying-
Strategy? There's no strategy.
Yeah, I have no strategy. Oh, that's the first time. The amount of memes that he supplied were just wild.
Honestly, his greatest of all time, where it was like a tornado, and he was drawing with a marker where the tornado was, or a hurricane.
a hurricane
sorry.
through Florida, yeah.
Where areas that it was damaging, and people were like, I don't think it went there. And he just grabbed the marker and was circling areas.
He added a place because of something he did to make himself look better.
That's right.
He made the hurricane look bigger.
Yeah.
Right. They updated it like the next
That was
day.
actually the most insane thing I've
That
ever
was
seen.
hilarious.
And
you
they
know-
were like, no. And he grabbed the marker and he's like, yeah, I was here too. I'm like, what the hell
Yeah.
are you doing?
and they had to upgrade. They updated where it hit based on what
The marker.
he said, and
The
it wasn't
marker.
true though. It still wasn't true, but they're like, all right, we'll give it to
Yeah,
you.
that'll be your news or his.
Sure, why not? Anyway, good to see you, JD.
Good to
Very
be here.
good to
Saw
see
you earlier today. We said
Yeah, it's
twice in one day.
very disappointing earlier, was it not?
It was,
You're
it was
trying
a
to sneak
little, it was
out
a little.
there.
I don't know who was better off. You who never got out on the course, or me who played 6 holes in that mess.
Yeah. How did you possibly play? I mean, the fog was insane today.
Yeah, you couldn't see anything for the first couple holes, and then it just started pouring, bleeding rain down.
Yeah.
So it was.
That's
it was
disappointing.
great.
Disappointing. He's got connections, though. He still got out. He snuck out somehow in the back. Us peasants at the first tee couldn't play. But JD, he has
Hey,
connections.
you play with the GM, things happen.
That does seem to help sometimes. So Leafs Stars tonight. How would you define the Leafs through 6 games? You know, everyone's got a different opinion on whether or not they've met expectations. It's very early. I guess let me rephrase that. At what point do you start taking into account, okay, we can actually define how these guys look? You know, Toronto, Edmonton, Boston's undefeated. Like,
I always said double digits used to be my stupid unwritten rule that I wouldn't make any conclusions until game 10, 11, 12 or whatever, which still feels early, but at least you have a body of work. And if you go 1-9, your season can be over after 10 games, right? So it's unfair to say the first 10 games don't matter.
How many
But
times
4 or
were you
5
dead wrong?
Never.
exactly. 10 games is a fair amount of games.
Yes.
You're right.
10 games I think is a decent amount, but I think it's the old Carlisle okay. It's fine. They got flaws, they have warts, but in general to have not really played that great and be, essentially 4-2 is like all you have to do is look over at Edmonton and go,
Yeah.
as long as it's not I think when you stumble a little bit, as long as it's not a disaster, you're fine. And I 4-2 is fine. There's been a lot of good things, a few bad things. Frankie points them out great on all the defensive little things. Yeah, I love that little thing you do with your computer. It's the most fascinating low tech thing I've ever seen.
There's no budget. No budget.
It's
involved
great.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to
future.
get you, like, what do they use? Like, Troy Aikman uses all the time.
Yeah,
Telestrator?
Telestrator.
Yeah.
We got to get you a Telestrator.
No, I think it's the low budget that makes it appealing.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, listen, October last year they were 4-4-2, and it was like the house was on fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people
Was
were
this the
talking-
trip? Is this the timing of the West trip last year when they
believe it
lost?
was.
When they went 0 for the West?
Remember
It
they
feels
lost
like about
that
the
game
right
in
time.
Anaheim. There was that overtime loss, and then they came home, and it was like, is Sheldon Keefe deserve to get fired? What's going on with everyone? Like, if you compare that to this,
Yeah, we were
they're
sitting
way
here
ahead.
going nuts.
Way
Like,
ahead.
This
Yeah.
right? That was an absolute disaster. And I think even if they lose to Dallas tonight, it's fine. But obviously, there's concerns.
Well, I guess this question really revolves around the teams on, both ends of the spectrum. And the Leafs would not, the Leafs are in the middle of that. And I guess if you're going to say, wow, Vegas is unbelievable, this is incredible, that means you're putting stock into an incredible start. Then you have to look at Edmonton and say, this is horrendous. Like, you can't have it both ways in terms of being objective and looking at the league. You can't pump the tires of Vegas, but then say, oh, it's too early to jump on the Oilers. Or conversely, say, man, the Oilers are a train wreck. This is a mess. And then say, oh, it's too early to make a call on if Vegas is legitimately this good.
Right.
Like, which one is it?
I do, like, as much as I say I don't take stock till 10 games or so, I do sit there and go, how did all of us sit there on the preview show and I don't think anybody took Vegas?
Nobody.
Maybe
embarrassing.
Button had Vegas going to the Cup final or something.
He did. He
Cup
said,
final.
I'm not gonna go away from the guys that are already
Which
Cup
I give
champs."
him
Okay.
because you know what happens usually? We all go to the guys who won the year before because that's what we remember. And I think that almost you tend to go the opposite way and said, okay, they had their magical year, but that's not going to happen this year. And besides Button, I don't think anybody had them even going to the Final Four. And we all went over Edmonton, and now people are all over us online going, oh, your picks about the Oilers.
Carolina, too, man. Carolina was right there in that same breath with
Yeah,
Edmonton.
that's right.
It's like, who's coming out of the East? Got to be Carolina. And they've struggled, too.
Yeah, they have.
So again, but no one's going to write off the Oilers because they're 1-5 or whatever the heck they are. So, look, I think everything's going fine in Toronto, and we'll have an idea in about 2 or 3 weeks if there's serious flaws that have to be adjusted.
Yeah.
I think we can probably agree that D's going to change at some point during the season.
Yes.
I don't think, I'm contradicting myself, but I think we knew going in, and we've probably seen enough early to know this is not going to be the D-core that leads them into the playoffs. And somewhere along the way, there's going to be probably 2 changes, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, if they want to take a serious run in the playoffs, they need an upgrade at that position.
I think the thing that's encouraging about that, if you're not happy with the Leafs decor, which I'm sure a lot of people aren't, Trey Living's track record of acquiring D-man, whether it's trade or free agent signing, has been pretty good. Like, he brought in Dougie Hamilton. He turned that into Noah Hannafin. That's your guy, top 50 player.
Dougie.
He signed Chris Tanev. He brought in Zadorov. Like, I don't know. You go down the list, it's like, guy's brought in some good D-men to his team. Top 50 Dougie Hamilton.
Top 50 Dougie.
Yeah.
Did he draft Adam Fox, too? And then
Probably,
Fox,
yeah, he probably drafted Adam Fox,
top
too.
20 Fox. Top 50
How about
Dougie.
Foxy? He got drafted by Calgary. He said no thanks to Calgary. Traded to Carolina. He gave them the bird, and then he just said, I'm with the Rays.
Actually, I'm going to be living in Manhattan.
Yeah, that guy did it his way.
Dude, that's you gotta
Like Frank
have so
Sinatra.
much jam to do
Yeah.
that, and just call your shot from a young age. You know what it's like when you're young? You're just like, I'll do anything to play in the NHL.
Right.
You tell me, right? It's like, actually,
Yeah. I got a little spot Upper
Yeah.
West Side. I'll be living there.
You know,
Stuff
the one
it,
that still
Calgary.
Yeah.
the one that still boggles my mind is Eli Manning, and it was San Diego.
Yeah.
San Diego.
And I know that wasn't the greatest football franchise at the time, although they had some runs with Dan Fouts. Who wouldn't want to live in San Diego?
That's what was
And be the
amazing.
quarterback for the
Yeah,
Chargers.
like, why wouldn't you want to turn it around in San
Maybe
Diego?
the single, like probably my top 3 cities that you'd always want to live in. It's like 72 degrees every single day and perfect.
Yeah.
There's these wonderful, beautiful neighborhoods
best
there.
job in the world,
Right.
head meteorologist in San Diego.
Right.
What's it like today? 72 and sunny.
Perfect, man. You
Thanks.
bet 1,000. You're
No
actually
problem.
liked. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, hey, I really
I mean, I
trust
think
Get
this
out
guy.
there and enjoy it.
I think we all understand, as Canadians, we're proud. We don't like it when guys don't want to play in Canadian cities or whatever, even if it's not the Canadian city we're in, like if people don't want to play in Edmonton or Winnipeg. But you kind of understand that to an extent. But San Diego,
Well,
still boggles my mind.
And, like, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think it was about filtering to New York. I think it was, I'll go anywhere else.
Right.
Like, anyone can move up and get this pick. I'm just not going to San Diego. Like, with
Manning said that?
Yeah, my understanding was
That
it
is
wasn't
insane.
It wasn't
Anywhere
about
but
him
San
saying
Diego is
I want to go
insane.
to the Giants, so work out the deal. It was I'm just not going here.
So he'd rather go to Cleveland.
I guess. I mean, I think that was the case. I mean,
no
I think that
offense
was
to Cleveland.
no
right?
offense to Cleveland. But wasn't that like with
we can't doubt Eli now. He's
No,
got 2 rings and
he's going to
one
the Hall
of
of
one of
Fame.
the best shows in sports.
Yes, he's going to the
So-
Hall of Fame, and he's got the Manning cast, and it all worked out. And maybe that doesn't happen in San Diego. Probably would not have.
Would you want to do like the Duthie cast where like you're watching a game, like bring in O during a game and do something like that?
I don't know that a guy who played for the Blackburn Stingers is qualified qualified to sit there and talk for 3 hours with a 40-goal score in the NHL. I mean, there's one thing when you got two brothers that have both won multiple rings, but it would be fun. I've often thought watching that show that would be a fun, even if you guys did, overdrive just during a Leafs game would be fun to watch. So it would be a cool thing to do, just kick back and not really care what you say. But
I don't know, I kind of a cool concept, but I always just want to watch the sporting event. I don't want to hear people talking. I just want to. I want to hear Gord MJ. I don't want to see two guys farting around.
So I will dabble with the Manning cast, but I'm with you. I like watching the actual game. Do you?
I have never seen 2 minutes
just
of it.
watch the Manning
No.
cast?
I never watch it.
Well, and also, Buck and Aikman are great in the booth. It'd be one thing if you had two guys in the booth where you're like, man, this is a mess. Then maybe you check out Manning.
The other
those two are elite.
the other thing, Hazy B, is that it is Peyton and Eli, and they get A-list guests.
That's
it's basically the new
amazing
late night show.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was O-Dog and I, and now special guest
Doogie.
Bryan Hayes.
Yeah, exactly.
Producer Doogie.
Doogie's
Up
coming
next,
in.
Frankie Corrado.
Right. It
Doogie's
probably
mom
would
be making him a hot chocolate and a grilled cheese or something.
That's
and
compelling entertainment. I have
Boys,
to
give
be
me
honest.
a sec here. I'll hop on in a
That's
second.
right. James Duthie in studio. We spoke a lot about the Shane Pinto story earlier this hour, but this was probably inevitable. At some point it was going to happen. Some player was going to get penalized for an association with gambling. And, these leagues, we've seen it in the NFL. I believe we've seen it I think we've seen it in all big four sports now. We've seen it in European football. They've all started to associate themselves with gambling. They're all generating revenue with gambling and gambling sites and gambling companies. But it's pretty clear cut. You can't have the players associated with any of it when it comes to your own sport. In terms of information, in terms of actually being the one to gamble. We don't know all the details here of what happened with Pinto, but it's a massive suspension. Something significant happened for 41 games.
Yeah, and I think that we are going to see in the next, I don't know, let's put a 1 to 2 years, I think we're going to see some major, I'm not saying hockey, but I think we're going to see a 1919 Black Sox type betting on games scandal. I don't think as a sports world, and you can call us hypocrites because we're FanDuel and such is all over our airwaves and everything we do, and certainly all over the NHL. I think that the Senators were the first NHL team to wear a gambling company's logo on their helmet. So you have those tie-ins. I watch my kid who's 23 and his friends who they're all into it, right? And I never grew up. Gambling was a fringe thing where some of my friends did it. I actually got I just remembered something. My scariest moment of my life. There was a kid on my football team in high school who would bring around game sheets to bet on all the NFL games. Right? And so you'd pay him $20, you circle all the games, and whoever got the most right would win or whatever. It was just like a pool. And I won one week and won a couple $100 or whatever. I was all excited. And in the middle of class, it's like, James Duthie to the office, please, James Duthie. I go in there, the principal gives me a look, pulls me into his office. There's 2 RCMP investigators there. And they go, they pull out my sheet. And this is a North American-wide gambling ring that you're a part of.
You're kidding me.
Oh, yeah. And so I was, you know how, you want to be cool and say, I'm not saying anything. Because they're first you get in a lot of trouble for this. And I signed a 3-page statement,
yes.
naming every detail
Joey
of the guy who
Walnuts.
gave me
A tracktracksuit.
I just ran it so
Alleyway.
fast. It was Steve. He gave me the sheet. It was all him. And, thinking my dad was an RCMP officer, I thought I was going to jail.
Yeah.
And that was my first, I guess, encounter with, this stuff can be bigger. And that was when gambling was taboo. Everything came out of Vegas and there was bookies. I don't think you can have this culture where it's everywhere and not expect this to happen at some point. You're 100% right.
It can't happen. You can't allow it.
The leagues are very diligent in telling players not to get involved. And again, they've said that Shane Pinto hasn't bet on hockey, and so we're waiting for the exact details of what exactly happened here. But I just feel like we're going to have some major scandal, whatever league it's going to be in, where somebody has point shaved in games in a major league sport because there's just so much money out there, and some guy who's making a minimum salary somewhere is on his way out. I just think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
You know what's
I hope
crazy
not.
now?
I
It's
hope
like
not.
people can develop like a model to like help predict how to gamble. And these models are like 50, 60% correct. Like, think about how enticing that would be. No one's like, I got a pretty good shot at this, actually. Like, I got better odds than everyone else using the book.
Well, listen, it's
You know where the scandal's going to end up? Golf.
yeah.
Because that's when you think about what Mickelson bet. If there's some guy who's, golf is the one sport you don't have all these $1 million contracts, and some guy just getting his PGA Tour card might be just scraping by. And if you could do something, miss a putt that could make you a ton of money, it'll be some
Yeah, but how could
low-end
you
golfer.
You could never orchestrate that.
I
It's like,
know.
hey, by the way, get in the lead, and on Sunday on 17, 3 jacket.
Well,
Like,
what if it's a no-name who's 2 off the lead on Sunday or whatever, and you can bet against him finishing in the top 10 or something like that? You know what I mean? There's a million ways it could happen.
Oh yeah, maybe you're right. And he
Yeah.
absolute soils himself on Sunday, and yeah, that could happen.
Anyway, it's that's been the worrisome
Yeah.
part of all of this. And
But that's
again,
why they got to hammer down. You have to uphold the integrity of the sport. You have to. You can't. And again, I've heard the counter argument. Well, everyone else gets to do it. If you're in bed with it, if it's legal, if you're generating revenue. Sorry, that just doesn't apply. With like, there are certain jobs where you can't do stuff.
I think an NFL player was suspended earlier this year, and his infraction was he placed a legal bet, but at
the facility.
which
Yes.
is one of the rules you can't do.
Right.
I don't think that was the case again with Pinto, but yeah, you're right. I mean, if they're going to, the leagues are going to get attacked on this because they're all in bed with the gambling companies. But I think you have to still clearly have that distinction between, yes, it's a big part of our business, but you can't partake in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the players can't. Like I said earlier, there are other jobs where like judges can't do certain things. Politicians can't do certain things. That's your job. And this is one of them. It's not going to change your life if that's the
I think
ruling.
Shane Pinto's contract that he's going to sign, this fighting over $200,000 is probably over.
Yeah, I think so.
It's going to be about as the low end as you can.
That's going to be
you
a
can
weird
get.
like press release, right? In like, a few weeks or whatever, a couple months. Pinto returning also, he said.
Well,
a one-year deal.
it won't be the NHL, like it won't be the minimum, but he'll have to give them now whatever the break is they need as his sort of apology, don't you think?
Wouldn't surprise me.
I'll tell you what, man. If I'm an agent, I don't know this scenario here, but if it's everyone always seems to blame somebody else. Oh, it wasn't me, it was somebody else. If it was me, I'm having a press conference with the guy that actually did it, and he's going to be crying, and he's going to say, I screwed all this up.
So you're not saying Shane Pinto, you're saying if it was a buddy or something?
Yeah, if it was a buddy or something, the buddy's going to be on TV explaining how he screwed this all up for Shane Pinto just to take some stress off the situation. And I would get a little bit sideways, and if it wasn't the case, I would hire an actor to act like his buddy that did it.
Then you
cry and do everything.
Would you do
that's the
that
way to
for
dig
me?
your way out of
If
it.
I called you and said, "Oh, I messed up. I need you to take a fall for me."
Buddy, we've talked about it before. We've always had $1,000 cash in case something happens. Don't worry, I got you.
He'll take care of you. It's all good. All right, JD, you just added yourself. All those guys that got arrested 35 years ago in Ottawa, you are in big trouble now, man. You are in big trouble.
The postscript, really, before I go, is that so the guy who was running the gambling thing was a big, tough linebacker and a big, tough kid.
Yeah.
And so I walked around school for the next 2 weeks thinking I was going to get killed because
Right.
I'd ratted on him. But I guess I wasn't the only one to rat. There was some other guy on the team.
Yeah.
And so one day we had a lobby where everybody sort of sat against the wall together. And the other kid was walking through the lobby, and the gambling kid walked through and just clocked him and like knocked him out in the lobby.
Oh, my God.
Because he was the guy. I just kind of
you're
quietly
like,
got
"Hey,
up with my
man."
textbook.
Can't believe it,
and
man.
walked away.
Kind of society we live
Jimmy
in
the
here.
Rat might be my new nickname.
Jimmy
Yeah.
the Rat.
We
You
did-
must have soiled your shorts when you saw those cops.
I was petrified.
Would be
When you're in high
absolutely
school and you see cops, there
Yeah.
is a fear of God.
Especially when your dad
Your
is
dad's
one.
a cop. That is
I couldn't have done
terrifying.
anything worse.
Terrifying. All right, JD.
See you, boys.
Good seeing you, James Duthie, on the panel tonight. Leaf Stars on TSN 4. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Luke Wilson in studio at 5 o'clock. Raptors with a big win last night. Big celebration after the game as well.
Good vibes there.
Very good
Very
vibes.
good vibes.
You know what I like? I noticed a sneaky little PR move. You know what it was?
What's that?
The coach was mic'd up, and his first comment when he sat down, he said, "I love the fans.
Yeah.
They're amazing." I was like, that's smart, man, because
It
that's
is.
going to air and someone's going to hear that.
Well, and last
No, he
night,
said, "I love our fans. They're unbelievable."
like, that building gets a bad rap, and there are times where it's deserved. The Leafs at times. But the Raptors, like last night, that lower bowl, there was nobody in the seats for about 8 minutes of each half.
Right.
Like in the second half in particular, which is always the case, halftime, you go get drinks or whatever. There was nobody in the lower bowl for
Dude, I
at
don't
least
get it, man.
7 or 8 minutes.
When I
Courtside
go to a
seats.
sporting event, I want to watch the event. I couldn't care less if I went with you two
Yeah.
and you guys said, let's go grab something in the corridor or whatever and like have some booze, I'd be like, no,
Yeah.
get me something and come
Grab
back.
something and bring it back. Like courtside seats. It's like, I'm not going to, I'm going to miss 8 minutes of the third quarter. But that was cool for Darko, for the Raptors. I thought Dennis Schroeder played great last night.
Dude,
You
he's
talk
better
about
than
very good.
Freddie V.
He's not better than Fred VanVleet.
He's my guy, and I like the celebration. I have no idea. What is the celly?
Yeah, it's.
Is it inject the? Is it the two
I think
guns?
it was like a blood donation thing or something.
Oh, it's ice in his veins.
Ice in his
it's
veins.
ice in his veins.
Ice in his veins.
That is my guy.
Like Hazy B on the mic.
Yes, Dennis Schroeder. He
Don't
looked
forget,
good.
he
looked
was
good
he
last
was
night.
sick in the World Championships.
Yeah, for Germany, he was outstanding.
He
Best
was the
player in
MVP.
tournament.
I think he won
Best
the
player.
MVP, man.
Best player in the tournament. Big win last night. Raps in Chicago tomorrow. Mark Eversley, good Toronto guy, GM of the Bulls. He'll join us at 5:30. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.